Hey there, how's it going? This last week I didn't get a lot done. I ended up coming down with a cold and I really didn't feel like doing more work after I got home from my day job. But luckily, it was only a couple of days of feeling crappy and I was able to get some stuff done on Monkeys with Guns, as well as get a download ready for anyone that wants to try out the new changes. I'll go into what's new with the build at the end, so stay tuned if you want to hear that. In the last devlog, I talked about making changes to the shotgun to make it feel more balanced and in line with the rest of the guns. Everyone seemed to really like the changes, but I was reminded that I should increase the knockback of the gun when it's fired to really round out the changes and make it feel whole. So I did that, and yep, it feels way better. Might still be able to bump it up a little bit, but I don't want to go too far on it, so if you play it, let me know. I was also able to get in and fix a small bug that I've been meaning to fix forever. It's a dumb one, so when you're falling, if you shoot up, the knockback from the weapon should push you down. And it worked if you jumped and shot up. But if you were already falling at terminal velocity, it would actually slow your fall. And that's because I was changing the up and down velocity of the player in terms of construct, that's the vector Y movement, according to the gun's knockback. I've actually messed with this a few times, but it turns out that every time I got in there and changed something, I kept forgetting to just simply add the player's current velocity. So basically, if you were already falling faster than the kickback's power, it would actually slow you down by setting your velocity to whatever the knockback would be. And again, the simple fix was to just add the velocity the monkey already had to the knockback. Gotta love super simple fixes that make so much more sense once you figured them out, huh? With that fixed up, I decided I wanted to do some art. I haven't done that in a little while. So I turned my attention to one of the biggest eyesores in the game for me right now. And that's the placeholder art that I've been using for the waterfalls in the cave level, which failed miserably. Sometimes you work on something and it just doesn't go well. And as you try to keep working on it, it just makes everything worse and worse. Everything for this was just kind of weird. I usually use Sprite for anything that's animated because Photoshop is really bad at doing animations. But because this is a tiling texture that needs to move one direction and repeat itself as it goes down, I found that Photoshop was a little easier this time because I was able to make use of a filter that not many people ever use, but it's called the offset filter. And what that allows you to do is offset the image you're working on by whatever pixel count you tell it. So it'll just move everything that many pixels and loop it on the other side. So for this, it was really handy to do in Photoshop. But as awesome as that was, it really didn't work out because the image just was kind of flawed to begin with. Somehow, over the course of making the highlights, it turned into a churning water type look, kind of like you would see at the bottom of a waterfall. Or clouds, kind of looks like clouds too. And in my head, it looked right, so I posted it to Twitter and Discord, and I was like, yeah, I fixed it. Then I showed it to my wife, who's a former illustrator, and she was like, that's not really correct. And then you awesome people that have joined my Discord let me know in a very nice way that it didn't really look correct either. And then I got a bunch of replies on Twitter from people letting me know, yeah, that doesn't really look correct. And you know what? Yeah, it's kind of wrong. There's no reason for the churning water to be falling down like that, and it also has the added problem of blocking the players as they're behind it. And the biggest irony of the whole thing, this is my most liked tweet ever. I'm not sure if that's because a lot of people actually just liked it or what, but here we are. So after all that, I jumped back in and I tried to fix it. And yeah, that didn't really work out the way I wanted it to. I just ended up making everything worse. After several iterations, I decided fine, it's not right, but it's better than what I had, so I'm gonna leave it. So I spent the rest of the day working on getting everything ready to make a build that I can post to itch. Oh, and while I'm on that, one side note. I also looked into the bug that we had while playtesting where the game just randomly froze. I figured it had something to do with the arrows since that's what we had just turned on when it happened, but I honestly couldn't find anything that would cause that freeze. And after a ton of trying, I can't recreate the issue either, so I honestly have no clue. So I'm going to post the build up, and if anyone has any issues like we had where the game just kind of freezes and locks up, I would really appreciate it if you could screenshot it and let me know. There's a channel in my Discord for bugs, or you can email me at vimlarkgames@gmail.com or DM me on Twitter. So if this happens to you, I'm very sorry, and any info you could give me would be greatly appreciated. So I finished all that up, and then the next day I just couldn't let the waterfall thing go, so I tried to hop back in with fresh eyes and see if that would help. And while I think what I did was a bit better, I still don't really care for it. It doesn't look like churning water anymore, but there's still something off about it that really doesn't sit well with me. I'll be straightforward and say I hit roadblocks like this a lot. And the beauty of game dev is there's always something else I can just go work on instead. I was just kind of hammering home on this one because I wanted to have it in and fixed up for the new build, but sometimes we don't get what we want. We get what we get, and that's it. Because game dev is a hobby and not a job, I need to make sure that I try and keep myself from getting too frustrated. Not to mention the fact that the work is going to suffer anyway when you're frustrated, and it can also sour the whole process if you're not careful. Failing is learning. I've tried to stick to this since I started doing game dev a few years ago, so I'm going to go ahead and call this a learning moment, and I'll come back and try again later. But I did want to document that something so simple can have me super frustrated. The rework I'm talking about was actually this morning of the day that I'm recording this, so I'm still a bit salty to be honest. But recognizing it and moving past it is the most important part. So I wanted to share, that way if any of you are struggling with your own waterfalls, just hang in there, take a break, stay positive, and know that you'll get it in the future. Okay, Tony Robbins moment over. Did I just show my age with that? Now let's get to what most people probably care about. As of this video going live, the Monkeys with Guns beta build 2.5.1 is up on itch to download and play. The link's in the description. By the way, if you're curious, I don't fully know what I'm doing with the version numbers. I see real game devs doing it, so I'm trying to do the same. I get that it's for version control, but I really don't know when it's appropriate to change the numbers. But I did feel that adding collision changed enough to warrant bumping it up to 2.5. I added the 0.1 at the very end because I'm sure there's going to be something wrong and I'll have to hotfix it as usual. Sorry about the random aside, that's just the kind of mood I'm in today. This build introduces monkey collision. Bounce off each other's heads, bump into each other, all the fun stuff. New screen wrap indicators. Smoke puffs, which are the default, but there are also arrows as well. You can use them one at a time, together, or not at all. They can be turned on and off in the options menu. Weapon balancing. Hopefully all the guns feel usable and fun to play with now. The spikes now have backs, giving them a much more intense look and really hammering home the play space being compressed. I fixed a slight bug where in the previous build, if you had a gun with a longer barrel, it was possible to have a crate fall on your head, which is intended, but because of the gun barrel being too long, the bullet would fire on the outside of the crate and not break it, which would trap the monkey. Now if you're covered by a crate, shooting will cause the crate to be destroyed whether the bullet hits it or not. And that's pretty much all the changes in the new version. If you download it and play it and would like to give feedback, you can join the Discord, email me, Twitter, all those things. I appreciate all input and I would love to hear your experiences. And I think that's going to about do it for this week. I want to say a huge thank you to everyone that joined the Discord after last week's video. Everyone has been super cool, and I look forward to hanging out and talking more together. I also just passed 500 Twitter followers, which is really cool, and more than I ever expected there as well. You're all super awesome, and I really appreciate that so many people have some interest in the silly little game that I'm making. So again, you can download the new Monkeys with Guns beta at vimlark.itch.io. If you have any questions or comments, you can leave them below, message me on Twitter, or hit me up on Discord. If you enjoyed this, please consider liking and subscribing, and I'll talk to you next time. Have a good one. Later.